Okay, so we'll start either sitting on heels. Well, first option is to sit on a chair. So know that this is definitely a variation you can take here at any point. Sitting on a chair, ideally with feet firmly planted, sit bones connected to the seat. And if that means placing some height underneath the feet so that you can feel like you can kind of press down through the feet a little, you could do that. So something like yoga bricks or 2 books of even height would work. So you can either sit on the chair or sit on heels. If you're sitting on heels, remember you can take as much height as feels helpful between bum and heels to ease pressure on feet and knees. You could also, if you wanted to, explore Virasana pose. So that's where you've got some height underneath the sit bones and the heels are to the outside of the bum. So I'm showing it you backwards so that perhaps you can see a little easier the position of the feet here. So rather than the heels being underneath the bum, the heels are to the outside of the buttocks, of the hips. Knees are still facing forwards though, so showing it you from the front. Knees are still facing forwards as far as you can. So they might not be quite as parallel as when you're sitting on heels, but still facing forwards rather than out to the sides like this. If you get any complaints from the knees, any pain in the knees, don't ignore that. You could explore taking more height. If it doesn't feel comfortable on the knees, then come to one of the other 2 positions, either sitting on heels or on a chair. If you are taking Virasana, then a key action once you're there is to try and actively press the tops of the toes down into the mat. So there's a feeling of broadening across the ball of the foot from the big toe side all the way across to the little toe side. So it doesn't matter if all the toes aren't actually in contact with the mat, but that there's that energetic feeling of that happening. So taking your time to settle in whichever position you've chosen. If it feels comfortable to, you could close your eyes or have your gaze soft. Bring your attention to your breath. Observing the breath as it comes in through the nostrils. Observing the breath as it goes out through the nostrils. Focusing on how the breath feels on each inhale as it travels up through the nostrils. How it feels on each exhale as it travels back down the nostrils. And if you notice that the mind has been distracted away from the breath, so perhaps that's by suddenly realizing that you're no longer focusing on the breath, use that noticing as an opportunity to guide the mind's attention back to the breath. If you want to set an intention for your practice today, take a moment to do that now. On your next inhale, imagine that you're inhaling from the base of the spine all the way up the spine to the chest. As you exhale, a feeling of the tops of the shoulders softening down. Imagine the breath then traveling all the way down through to the sit bones. So continue following the breath in this way. So there's a feeling at the bottom of each exhale of the sit bones releasing down into the surface beneath them a little more. So effectively a feeling of the sit bones releasing into the ground. Whatever surface you're in connection with is effectively the ground for you here. So as the sit bones release into the ground, there's a greater sense of connection with the ground. And from that place of connection, you're then lengthening up the spine. So feeling of the spine lengthening up and out of the pelvis. At the top of the inhale, a feeling of the chest perhaps lifting a little more. So as if the chest is trying to lengthen a little further away from the pubic bone. So you're not, it's a subtle sense of this rather than that you're forcing any extra physical movement. You should focus on how the breath feels within the body. On your next inhale, draw the arms forwards and up, reaching up with the fingertips. If this doesn't feel good for the shoulders, for example, or for any other reason, then you could have hands on your hips. Continue to follow the breath in the same way. So you're inhaling up the spine and lifting the chest at the top of the inhale. As you exhale, see if you can have a subtle feeling of the shoulders softening back and down now. So not a big physical movement, but just a subtle sense of the shoulders drawing back a little as they draw down. And still then that breath traveling down through to the sit bones. A few more breaths in this way. And as you're inhaling up the spine now, having an awareness too of a feeling of lengthening in the side body too, from the top of the hip up to the armpits. So all of the torso lengthening here, feeling a little more spacious. Next time you exhale, draw belly and chest round towards the right. As you do that, sweep the arms out to the sides and all the way down. So left hand can come to rest somewhere on the lap. Right hand rests somewhere, probably somewhere behind you, or it might be to close to your right hip, wherever it lands. But bring it into contact either with the back of the chair or a point on the chair if you're on a chair, to the ground if you can, or if you're up on lots of height and the ground isn't reachable, you could take height for the hand, or you could bring the hand to the hip or the heel of the hand to the lower back, to the sacrum. So basically the right hand has something to press against. Bring focus to your left hand and have the palm of the left hand either pressing against the outside of the right knee or right thigh, or against the inside of the left knee or left thigh, whichever feels most comfortable for you. Come back to the breath, inhaling up the spine into the chest. As you next exhale, find that sense of the shoulders softening back and down, all the way down through to the sit bones. So sit bones still releasing down here. As the sit bones release down, can you maybe find a sense of the tailbone perhaps lengthening down a little too? Continue to follow the breath in this way. And on each exhale, at the start of each exhale, as you're focusing on the shoulders softening back and down, can you use the press of the hands against whatever surface they're against, to encourage the shoulders back and down a little more so that there's a bit more feeling, particularly with the right shoulder blade of the shoulder blade drawing into the back, bringing a bit more broadness across the chest. So in this twist here, we're exploring and finding a bit more spaciousness across the heart space, particularly the front of the heart space. So we're not, as we might often do in twists that we take, we're not seeking to keep the chest and the belly in line with each other, but don't lose the belly completely. So check in with the abdomen, check that there is a feeling of engagement there. So it still feels that the abdominal area is actively drawing round to the right as well, even though the more mobile chest and upper back is probably further round to the right. Last few breaths here. Inhaling up the spine, up the side body, finding some space. Exhaling, shoulders softening back and down, bringing some more broadness across the chest. And let that exhale come all the way through to the sit bone. So you're still finding that rootedness in the sit bone. Great. On your next inhale, draw back to center, sweep the arms up if you're working with arms raised, or bring hands back to the hips, whichever feels right for you. And then on an exhale, draw belly and chest round towards the left, sweep the arms out to the sides and down. So left hand is now resting on the ground or on your chair or on your hip, your left hip, or your sacrum. Palm of the right hand is pressing against the outside of the left knee or left thigh, or the inside of the right knee or right thigh. Come back to the breath. Inhale up the spine, find that lift in the chest. Exhale, as the shoulders soften back and down, can you start to use the press of the hands to help with that feeling of shoulders drawing back and down, to have a sense of the shoulder blades drawing into the back a little more. So you've come round into your twist, and then the focus is on finding more broadness across the front of the heart space as you draw shoulders back and down. Use the press of the hands, and maybe in doing so, it might so happen that that you turn a little more round to the left, but let the focus be on how this feels, particularly across the heart space, that this is a feeling, an experience of broadening, expanding across the heart space from the center of the heart space out to the armpit. Checking that you're still rooted down through the sit bones. Use the bottom of the exhale to help with that, and checking that the belly is still active here. So the belly is still drawing round towards the left as well. Great. Inhale back to center, sweep the arms up or bring hands to the hips. If you've got the arms raised, then turn the palms to face out, and on an exhale, sweep the arms out to the sides and all the way down. If you feel really comfortable where you are, feel free to stay there. If you want to give your legs a break, then feel free to ease the legs out from under you and give them a bit of a shake out. Maybe rotate the ankles, whatever you need to do. And then either come back to the position you were in or take another of the variations. So reminder of the variations you can either be sitting on heels, you can be taking Virasana, where the feet are to the outside of the hips, or you can be sitting on a chair with feet firmly planted. So come to one of those three positions. Take your time to do that. Just know once you're there, take a few rolls of the shoulders in one direction and in the other direction. Okay, so we're going to take a few rounds of an alternate nostril breathing practice. So this practice is rooted in the concept, the yogic concept of the nadis, or energy channels that run throughout the body. And there are two major ones, one of which ends in the right nostril, one of which ends in the left nostril. The right nostril is associated with warming, energizing, also associated with the sun. Left nostril is associated with cooling, calming, and also associated with the moon. So we're going to take a few rounds of breath that tap into that warming, energizing aspect of the right side. And to do that, we'll be breathing in through the right nostril, out through the left nostril. So the breathing pattern is as simple as that: breathe in through the right, out through the left. So there are a couple of ways you can do this. So the way I'll talk you through is that you take it in turns to block off one nostril and then the other. I'll talk through that in a moment. If that doesn't feel right for you, for whatever reason, then you can also do this as a more subtle practice, where you simply imagine that you're breathing in through the right nostril. Imagine that you're breathing out through the left. And as with any practice that we take, if you decide to give that a try and you feel like this isn't working, you know, however much I imagine it, don't worry, just keep focusing on imagining it. There's probably more happening than you think there is. So if you've never done this before and you feel okay to block off the nostrils, then I'd recommend starting there. But it's also a useful thing to be aware of, the imagining practice, if for any reason, you know, this isn't right for you, blocking off the nostrils. So to block off the nostrils, you use your right hand, you use the thumb against the right nostril, forefinger against the left, and you don't want to switch the whole of the nose in here. All you need to do is find the point where the bony bit of the nose ends and the fleshy part starts, and just a gentle bit of pressure there will be plenty to block off the nostrils. So I'll talk us through some rounds and then invite you to take some rounds at your own pace. If you get into the rhythm of it and want to start your own pace sooner, feel free to tune me out and do that. So just starting with the right hand, just hovering in front of the face so you're ready with thumb and forefinger, but keep both nostrils clear. Left hand just resting in the lap, however it feels comfortable. If it feels comfortable, you could have your eyes closed or just soften your gaze a little. Inhale through both nostrils. Exhale through both nostrils. Bring forefinger to the left nostril, block it off. Inhale through the right nostril. 4, 3, 2, 1. Thumb to right, release forefinger. Exhale through left. 4, 3, 2, 1. Forefinger to left, release thumb. Inhale through right. 4, 3, 2, 1. Thumb to right, release forefinger. Exhale. 4, 3, 2, 1. Forefinger to left, release thumb. Inhale. 4, 3, 2, 1. Thumb to right, release forefinger. Exhale. 4, 3, 2, 1. Continue at your own pace. So the count for each inhale and exhale, you don't have to do that, but just have a way of feeling like the inhale and the exhale are roughly of equal length. So whatever feels helpful for you. So you might be going at an entirely different pace. So the pace I took us at might be slower, might be faster, whatever feels comfortable. Take your time to complete one more full round. So whatever round you're on now, take one more round. And when you've done that, release the right hand to the lap. Take your time. Once you have released the hands, just continuing to focus on the breath as it settles back into its natural rhythm. Okay, now making your way to all fours. And once you're there, taking some cat-cow movement. So at your own pace, easing into some cat-cow movements. So as you inhale, shoulders are drawing back, creating space for the chest to draw forward, tailbone tipping up. Exhaling, middle of the spine, drawing up towards the ceiling as the head releases down, as the tailbone lengthens down. And taking this at your own pace and really focusing on matching the movement to the breath. So I very often say this when we're taking cat-cow, but particularly see if you can bring your focus to that today. So the bottom of the exhale coincides with a feeling of the middle of the spine having kind of reached its peak, if you like, of drawing up towards the ceiling. The top of the exhale coincides with a feeling of expansion, broadening across the chest as it draws forwards. See if you can really have a sense of the breath guiding and powering these movements. So an example of that would be, and yeah, powering and guiding the poses. So an example of that here would be that when we're taking an exhale and curling the spine up towards the ceiling, we're wanting to really press the hands into the mat to support us here and to allow the shoulder blades to draw apart. But see if you can really use the breath for that. So you might imagine that you're exhaling down through the palms of the hands. So it's like the hands are releasing down into the mat, rather than it feeling so much like effort, either physically or mentally. Let the breath guide it. Great. Come back to center. We're going to come into, in a moment, come into downward dog. So don't come into it yet, but either you'll take downward dog on the mat. So don't do it yet, because I'll talk us through it. Or you're coming to downward dog at the wall. So whatever feels right for you in your practice today, whatever you prefer to do. Okay, so take your time to make your way up to your downward dog and consciously use your breath to get there. So whether you're coming up or you're coming back, if you're at the wall, and whether you use an inhale or an exhale, up to you, but consciously use a breath to draw yourself into downward dog. So you're using that breath to start to draw the hips as far away from the wrists as you can. And then stay with the breath. So now use each inhale to imagine that you're inhaling from the wrist to the hip. So there's a feeling of greater length between wrist and hip. Lovely. On your exhale, start by focusing on the hands. Imagine that you're exhaling down through into the palms of the hands, or yeah, if you're against the wall, exactly the same thing. So there's a feeling of the hands releasing into the wall or the floor a little more. And now on your exhale, focus on the heels a little more. So see if you can have a feeling of the heels drawing towards or into the ground a little more. So particularly if you're on the mat, they might not be in contact with the floor, and that's fine. They don't need to be, but energetically, there's a feeling of them drawing towards or into the floor a little more. Not at the expense of the hips drawing away from the wrists. Great. If you're in downward dog on the mat, start to walk hands back towards feet or feet towards hands to come into a forward fold. You could also, if you're at the wall, you could come into your forward fold from here too, if that feels okay. Maybe bring a bit of a bend to the knees first and then walk the hands down the wall until you feel like you can perhaps almost kind of use a bit of a push away from the wall to bring the weight back into the heels, bring hands to hips, and then fold down from there, if that feels okay to do. Or you can come out of your downward dog at the wall and then make your way into forward fold. So in your forward fold, bring your focus to your heels. See if you can have a feeling of actively pressing the heels into the mat a little more. So not just a feeling of weight coming back into the heels, but more that you're actively pressing the heels into the mat. And in doing so, does that feel like it brings a bit more activation to the legs, so that perhaps there's scope for the hips to draw just a little further up away from the heels? So focus on on the inhale, focus on the hips drawing up away from the heels. On the exhale, focus on a feeling of the side body softening and lengthening down, the shoulders releasing down, the head and the neck releasing down. Right, on your next inhale, come to a halfway lift. Shoulders drawing back, chest drawing forwards. Maintain this for a few breaths. See if you can find that action of pressing into the heels a little more. As you do that, can you notice any sense of that allowing the sit bones to draw back to the space behind you a bit more? Just noticing. So it might even be, if as you focus on pressing the heels into the mat a little more, you might have an awareness of the inner thighs rotating in and back a bit more to help with that drawing back of the sit bone. Exhale back down to your forward fold. Bring your hands onto your hips. Keep pressing into the heels. So it's not that you're not pressing into the balls of the feet as well, but a particular focus on the heels. Next time you inhale, draw the chest forwards and all the way up. Exhale, release the hands. Come to step to the top of the mat and come into your mountain pose. So a focus, first of all, on the feet. And find that action as you normally would in mountain pose of actively pressing the feet down into the mat. So balls of the feet, outer edge, inner edge of the feet. And now bring your focus more to your heels. So stay active through the rest of the foot, but see if you can find a bit more sense of the heels pressing down into the mat. And it might be as you do that, maybe the weight comes back a bit more into the heels. That's fine, but don't just, the idea isn't just bring weight back into the heels. The idea is to see if you can feel like the heels are pressing into the mat a little more. Tailbone lengthening down, navel towards spine, shoulders drawing back and down. So maybe that same, or a more subtle sense, but remembering how it felt when we were focusing on shoulder blade drawing into the back to bring more broadness across the chest. See if you can have an awareness of that here. Either closing your eyes or softening your gaze. If you set an intention at the start of your practice, take a moment to recall that now. Bring palms of the hands together in front of the heart, thumbs resting against the center of the chest. As you next inhale, maybe feeling as if the chest might be able to draw up a little more, a little further away from the pubic bone, as if the chest is trying to kind of meet the thumbs more fully. Keep the tailbone lengthening down. On your next inhale, sweep the arms out to the sides and up, or you can bring hands to the hips if that feels best. As you exhale, draw the chest forwards and down, sweep the arms down, coming into your forward fold. Press into the heels, hips drawing up towards the ceiling, head releasing down. Inhale to a halfway lift. Keep that press through the heels, sit bones drawing back as the chest draws forward. Exhale to forward fold. Inhale, draw the chest forward all the way up, sweep the arms up. If it feels helpful to bring a bend to the knees as you come up, a bit more of a bend to the knees, then by all means do that. Exhale, bring palms of the hands together in front of the heart. Inhale, sweep the arms up, really focusing on matching movement to the breath now. We're going to take the same sequence again. Exhale, fold forwards. Bottom of the exhale coincides with everything releasing down, or the whole of the upper body releasing down. Inhale to halfway lift. Exhale to forward fold. Inhale, draw the chest forwards all the way up, sweep the arms up to the top of the inhale, coincides with fingertips drawing up towards the ceiling. Exhale, bring palms of the hands together in front of the heart. Take 2 more rounds at your own pace. Try and stay with the breath, so go straight into it rather than stopping and thinking and jumping into the mind. Move with the breath. Doesn't matter if you don't end up doing the same sequence as we just did. Trust in the breath, trust in the body, focus on moving with the breath. Going at whatever pace feels right for you. You're taking 2 rounds of this standing flow, knowing that when you've completed those, then you're standing back in your mountain pose. No rush to complete, but just knowing once you're in your mountain pose, you're observing the breath as it returns to its natural rhythm. You'll be observing anything that comes up in the mind without attaching to it. So observing it, letting it go. Okay. So we're going to do some more movement with breath. So I invite you during the rest of this practice to let that be a key focus for you, moving with the breath. So as we move with the breath, that's quite a different thing to when we're pausing to really focus on a pose and refine it and spend many breaths in it. So by all means, see what you can bring to each pose as you arrive in it with each breath, you know, what kind of, whatever that might be. And then you're letting it go. So it doesn't need, you know, there's no perfect anyway in yoga. There's just such continuous kind of deepening of awareness and refinement. That's a very different thing. So keep moving with the breath and just notice, you know, is there a tendency to kind of jump into the mind and think that it has to be a certain way? It doesn't. The focus is on moving with the breath. So I'll guide us through a sun salutation. It will be a familiar one, but also know that, as always, if there are any aspects of the flow that we're taking that doesn't feel right for your practice, don't do them or modify them. So, for example, we will I'll invite you to lower down to the mat and come to Cobra. So a couple of things there. A reminder that if lowering down knees and chest in this way isn't right for you, you can come onto forearms and lower down in this way. Or you can skip the lowering down, and in fact, you can skip the plank completely, come back to a downward dog. You can also take extended child's pose instead of downward dog. So there are variations that you can take. Also, if moving back along the mat doesn't feel right for you, you can take that standing float that we just took from here to here and so on. Okay, so actively in mountain pose at the top of the mat. Bring palms of the hands together in front of the heart. Inhale, sweep the arms up. Exhale, fold forward. Inhale to a halfway lift. Exhale, fold forward. Plant the hands in front of and slightly wider than the feet. Use an inhale to bring more weight forward into the hands. Exhale the right foot and the left foot back. Either keep the knees raised or draw the knees down. You're in a plank pose. Take an inhale here. And then as you next exhale, knees and chest down to the mat. Inhale to Cobra. Shoulders back, chest forward. Exhale, push the mat away from you, come up to all fours. Inhale, hips up and back to come to downward dog. Exhale, knees down to the mat. Inhale, sweep the right foot out to the side and all the way forwards, round and forwards. Bring it in between the hands. Take an inhale, press fingertips into the mat, tuck the back toes under, draw the back knee up. And then exhale, step the back foot forwards to come to your forward fold. Inhale to a halfway lift. Exhale to forward fold. Inhale, draw the chest forwards all the way up, sweep the arms up. Exhale, bring palms of the hands together in front of the heart. Inhale, sweep the arms up. Exhale, fold forwards. Inhale to halfway lift. Exhale, fold forwards, plant the hands. Inhale, bring more weight forwards into the hands. Exhale, left foot and right foot back. You can take knees down at this point if you want to. Take an inhale and then exhale, knees and chest down to the mat. Inhale to Cobra. Exhale, push the mat away from you with your hands, come up to all fours. Inhale to downward dog. Exhale, draw knees down to the mat. Inhale, sweep the left foot out to the side, forwards and round, bringing it in between the hands. Use an exhale to bring the fingertips to the mat. You could release the hips forwards a little here as well. And then tuck the back toes, inhale the back knee up. Exhale, step the back foot forwards, come to your forward fold. Inhale to halfway lift. Exhale to forward fold. Inhale, draw the chest forwards all the way up. You can sweep the arms up. Exhale, palms of the hands together in front of the heart. Continue to move with the breath at your own pace. You can take the sequence that we just took or any variation. there's another sun salutation sequence that you want to take, then do. If you want to take the standing sequence with the breath, do that. If you want to come to cat-cow to focus on moving with the breath, do that. So take something now where you're continuing to move with the breath for a little longer. Notice if the ego mind is getting involved here. So taking a practice that serves you, where you can really focus on matching movement to the breath. Take your time to complete the round that you're on. So no rush. Take your time. If you just started a round, no problem. Take your time to complete whatever round you're on. And we'll meet in mountain pose at the top of the mat. Use the breath to help you stay present with each movement. No rush to complete at all, just knowing that once you're in mountain pose at the top of the mat, you could close the eyes or soften the gaze. Observe the breath as it settles back to its natural rhythm. Noticing how the body feels. Noticing anything coming up in the mind without attaching to it, just observing it, noticing it, letting it go. Fully actively in your mountain pose. Bring the focus to the heels again, that feeling of actively pressing the heels into the mat just a little more. Tailbone still lengthening down. Bring your awareness to your back body. So the backs of the legs, the buttocks, lower back, shoulder blades, back of the head. Let's have a little more awareness there. So pressing the heels down into the mat. Don't lose that press of the heels as you now bring a little more weight back into the heels. So don't let the weightiness through the heels replace that active sense of pressing the heels into the mat. Great. And then on your next exhale, start to lower your bum down. So keep pressing into the heels, lower your bum down as if you were lowering yourself very slowly into a chair or a stool behind you. And as you do that, try and keep a feeling of length in the tailbone. So what I mean is don't let the tailbone kind of like push back to just create, you know, so that you collapse into the lower back. So it might not feel quite as lengthened as when you're in mountain pose, but try and keep a feeling of length there. So there's still a bit of tilt, forward tilt in the pelvis. Great. So Pressing down through the heels. See if you can use your exhale to maybe lower the bum just a little more. On your next inhale, draw the arms forward to shoulder height if that feels okay. You can keep the arms alongside your hands on hips if that feels better. Wherever you are with the arm, see if the shoulders can draw back and down a little more. So there's a feeling, might just be an energetic sense of the chest lengthening up away from the pubic bone a little more. Brilliant. So focus on that on the inhale, and on the exhale, focus on the bum releasing down. Doesn't mean it has to move more, but just focus on that. Fantastic. If you want to draw the arms up alongside the ears, you could do that if that feels helpful for lifting the chest. Super. And then on your next exhale, draw the chest forward all the way down. Keep the bend in the knees so the belly comes towards the thighs. Let the arms release down if you've had them raised. Head release down. Shoulders release. Use your next inhale to press down into the heels and draw the hips up towards the ceiling. And then exhale in your forward fold. In your forward fold for a few breaths now. Inhaling, you focus on the hips drawing up towards the ceiling, further away from the heels. Exhaling, imagine that you're exhaling down the side body from the hips down to the shoulders, shoulders, head, neck, softening, releasing down. On your next inhale, come to a halfway lift. Exhale to forward fold. Inhale, draw the chest forwards all the way up. You can sweep the arms up or have hands on the hips. Exhale, bring palms of the hands together in front of the heart. Release the arms alongside you, be in your mountain pose. You're going to take that sequence of movement as a flow with the breath a couple of times. If it doesn't feel right for you, you could take the standing flow that we took at the start of the class. If you're done with flowing, you could stay in mountain pose, focusing on the breath. So be in your mountain pose, pressing down through the heels and awareness in the back body. On your next exhale, lowering the bum down. Inhale, draw the arms forwards if you want to, or they can come up alongside the ears. Exhale, keep that bend in the knees as you draw the chest forwards and down, belly towards the thighs. Let the head, shoulders release down. Inhale, draw the hips up towards the ceiling. Exhale in your forward fold. Inhale to a halfway lift. Exhale to forward fold. Inhale, draw the chest forwards all the way up, sweep the arms up. Exhale, bring palms of the hands together in front of the heart. Release the arms alongside you. Come fully into your mountain pose. Taking this slow one more time. So as you exhale, lowering the bum down. Inhale, taking the arms forward, maybe up, getting that lift in the chest. Great. Exhale, draw the chest forwards and down. Let the head, the shoulders release down. Inhale, draw the hips up towards the ceiling. Exhale in your forward fold. Inhale to a halfway lift. Exhale to forward fold. Inhale, draw the chest forwards all the way up, sweep the arms up. Exhale, bring palms of the hands together in front of the heart. Release the hands alongside you and make your way now into child's pose. So come down to the mat in whatever way you wish. If you want to take a flow to get there, you're welcome to, or come straight down to the mat. So you're either coming into a child's pose, ideally with the knees out wider than the feet, and then you'll be in a full child's pose with the arms back behind you. Or if that doesn't feel releasing for you, and particularly if it doesn't feel comfortable for head or neck or for any other reason, then come to lying on your back and hug knees into the chest. And if you're doing that, then you're taking the one hand on each knee and drawing the knees towards you, but in the direction of each armpit. So there's some space between the knees. If you're in child's pose, then if there isn't contact between bum and heels, then if you've got height support available, like blankets, cushions that you can place between bum and heels, then do that. And you can also have a play around with taking height underneath the forehead. Whichever pose you're in, on each exhale, have a sense of the shoulders, the hips softening, releasing down into or towards the ground a little more. If you're in child's pose, then on each inhale, inhaling into the space in the back body. If you're on your back, inhaling into the space in the front body. If it feels comfortable to, then lengthen your exhale for the last few breaths here. So the focus is on cultivating a sense of softening and release in the body on the exhale, letting go of effort, of holding in the body. Take your time now to make your way up to sitting. So if you're in child's pose, you could place palms of the hands alongside the head and press yourself up. If you're on your back, you might roll to one side and then push yourself up. And then come, if it feels okay for you, come to Sukhasana. So sitting with legs crossed. Take any height that you might find helpful underneath the sit bones to allow the thighs, the knees to release down a little more. If this doesn't feel comfortable, you could sit on a chair, maybe just take the knees just a little wider apart, just so we're bringing a bit of opening to the hips after quite a lot of closed hip work. Once you're settled there, then take an inhale up the spine into the chest, lengthening away from the pubic bone. Exhale, shoulders softening down, feel the softening come all the way down through to the sit bones releasing down into the ground or the surface beneath them. Follow the breath in this way for a few more rounds. Take one more inhale up the spine into the chest. And then as you exhale, draw belly and chest round towards the right. So this time we're keeping belly and chest in line with each other as much as we can. Right hand comes to rest on the ground or against the chair or on some height, or against the hip if you need to, alongside the right hip. Left hand resting wherever feels comfortable on the lap. Continue to inhale up the spine into the chest. As you exhale, a feeling of the shoulders softening down and maybe back a little here. Let the softening come all the way down through to the sit bone. Inhale back to center. Exhale, draw belly and chest round towards the left. Left hand pressing against the ground or the chair, but keep it as close to the body as you can. Right hand resting wherever feels comfortable. Inhaling up the spine into the chest, exhaling, shoulders softening back and down. Sit bones releasing down to the mat. Inhale back to center. We're going to take a few rounds of alternate nostril breathing again. Again, if this doesn't fit, as with any aspect of the practice, if this doesn't feel right for you, don't do it or let it go. You can let it go sooner than when I prompt. And in which case, you're focusing on the breath, and you could focus on that feeling of inhaling up the spine into the chest, exhaling, shoulders softening down through to hip bone. So this time, same idea as before, but we're now taking the more cooling, calming, sort of moon-related version of the breath. So we'll be inhaling through the left nostril, exhaling through the right. Remember, if it doesn't, for any reason, feel right to be blocking the nostrils, you could imagine that you're doing this. So if you want to tune me out from the start, feel free to do that. I will talk through a couple of rounds, because it might feel more helpful for you. But if you want to go ahead and do it under your own steam, feel free to do that. So you've still got the right hand here, thumb will block off the right nostril, forefinger will block off the left. Take an inhale through both nostrils to start. Exhale through both nostrils. Thumb to the right nostril, inhale through left, 4, 3, 2, 1. Forefinger to left, release the thumb, exhale, 4, 3, 2, 1. Thumb to right, release the forefinger, inhale, 4, 3, 2, 1. Forefinger to left, release the thumb, exhale, 4, 3, 2, 1. Continue at your own pace. Maintaining a sense of inhale and exhale being roughly of equal length. You don't need to count the breath, the length, but do if it feels helpful. If at any point you feel like you're really gasping for the breath, then ease off. Ease off the length of the breath. Whatever round you're on now, take one more full round of breath after that, and then let it go. Let the hand come back to the lap. Take your time, no rush, just knowing that you're then observing the breath as it settles back to its natural rhythm. Noticing how the breath feels. Noticing, observing the mind. Noticing any thoughts that come up in the mind, but not attaching to them. So just noticing them, letting them go. And now making your way into your Shavasana. So what I invite you to do, is the most important thing with Shavasana, of course, is to be in a position where you can let go of effort in the body as much as possible. We've done quite a lot of closed hip work. So what I invite you to explore is in your Shavasana, if you feel okay with legs out long, would be to take some height underneath the knees. And it doesn't need to be as high as this bolster. If you've got a bolster, great, but it could be a rolled up blanket, for example, but something that's wide enough to accommodate the sort of the width between the knees. So that as you lie back and the legs are out long, just naturally with some height under the knees will kind of flop out to the sides a little without you needing to consciously do anything. So you've just got a little bit of opening in the hips. So if that feels available to you, you could take your Shavasana in this way today. If it doesn't, don't worry, take whatever feels right for you. Taking your time to settle, allowing the body to come into greater sense of stillness as you let go of holding, of effort in the body, and allow the ground to hold you. Bringing your attention to your breath. Allowing the breath to be in its natural rhythm. And using each exhale as an opportunity to cultivate a feeling of the back body softening, releasing, spreading into the ground a little more. Or if you're not lying on your back in Shavasana, then whatever points of the body are in contact with the ground, a feeling of those releasing, softening into the ground a little more. Just being with the breath in this way now, and knowing that this space is held for you while you do that. Starting to bring some deeper breaths into your body. Slowly bringing some movement back to your body, maybe wiggling fingers and toes, perhaps rotating wrists and ankles. Taking any movements now, any stretches, sighs, yawns, anything that feels good as you bring your full awareness back to your body. Taking your time to make your way back up to a comfortable seated position, having your eyes closed or your gaze soft as you do that. If you set an intention at the start of your practice, take a moment to recall that now. Bringing palms of the hands together in front of the heart. Take a moment to be grateful to yourself for making the time for this practice today. And a moment for us to be grateful that we have this practice of yoga available to us, and that we have this space available where we can gather and practice together in this way and connect in this way. If you want to, you could take a moment to think of anything else that you're grateful for right now. Bowing your head towards your fingertips. Namaste. Releasing your hands, raising your head whenever you're ready. Thank you guys, lovely to practice with you.